Watching the San Francisco 49ers lose to the Miami Dolphins was tough to watch, but I think there are some positives that we can take away for the long term and how the 49ers need to retool and change this roster and just really just kind of revamp things. And the reason, and I'm going to tell you right now what that is. The 49ers currently, as it stands with that loss and the way everything has played out up until right now, the 49ers are currently projected to be picking at 11. So the 49ers, haven't been in this position since, well, clearly they traded up into the third. But if we remove that situation, they haven't been this high up in the draft order since the 49ers picked at 10 with Mike McGlinchey. So there's a real opportunity right now for them to be able to add a massive impact player within the top, let's just say 12 picks. Now, we got to see how it plays out. They I mean, I would say they probably are going to lose out. I Based on what we just saw against Miami, there's no chance that the 49ers are going to beat the Lions, and if they do, it will be an absolute just like, oh wow, kind of a moment. But the point is that clearly this season is over. 49ers have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. We knew this was going to be the case, but it's official now. And now we're starting to look ahead, right? That's where we're at. That's what happens when you get eliminated from playoff contention. So there's 2 games left in the season, and if they can lose both of them, they can almost guarantee a top 12 draft pick. And as we know, there's typically a lot of good talent in that range. And what the 49ers want is they want these quarterbacks to be elevated up, because when quarterbacks are elevated into the top 10, it pushes blue chip talent down that are at different positions. And right now, the 49ers have some of the biggest needs in those kinds of areas, specifically the trenches. What we're going to be talking about for a majority of this offseason is offensive line and defensive line, specifically in the draft and free agency. The 49ers need to get better in the trenches. The trenches is arguably one of the biggest concerns on the entire roster on both sides. And they have to improve in this area if they want to get back to their winning ways. When we think of those seasons and when the 49ers have had the most success, they're typically playing the best in the trenches, whether it's the run game, whether it's getting after the passer with the defensive line. Think back to the 2019 season when you had rookie Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, and D Ford. Those 4 created havoc. Uh, and just doing it themselves. That's all you needed. You didn't need to do anything crazy. You didn't need to do any crazy exotics. It was just take those 4 and let them get after the passer, and they would absolutely cook. They were one of the main reasons why the 49ers went 13-3 that year. So they need to go back, and I think the opportunity for them is to bolster the defensive line. A lot of the conversation is, who should they go after? Who should they target in that range of being in the top 12? I have said it multiple times on Twitter, and it will continue to be the thing that I echo, is I am of the belief, if you're picking in that range, if you have the opportunity to get an elite edge or an elite defensive tackle, you have to go there over an offensive lineman like a tackle. The reason why I'm saying this is because tackle isn't a direct need. It is a need. They need to get better at that position. Trent isn't going to play forever. McKivitz, I know a lot of people would like to upgrade that position out as well. But right now, the defensive line needs to be upgraded and significantly upgraded. And I think the most important position to fill is the interior defensive tackle spot. Hargrave most likely will be a post June 1st cut. So his time is likely over. And Malik Collins has actually been great. Jordan Elliott, and the list of guys who are currently playing in that spot, those guys are just role players. They're just depth. You need a stud, you need a star. Right now, the name that I'm currently looking at is Mason Graham. I mean, phenomenal last name, but for the things that the 49ers need, they need to get a dominant presence on the interior. That's why they signed Hargrave to that massive contract because they thought they were getting that. Okay, so that didn't work out. The philosophy was there. I don't have a problem with the philosophy. The problem was they dropped that money into a 30-plus-year-old veteran who clearly was on the tail end of his career. So now maybe switch that philosophy, turn to the draft, and if you can somehow get your hands on Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham, that would be the most ideal situation, I think, for the 49ers. And if you can't get Mason Graham, there's Pierce out of Tennessee, Abdul Carter out of Penn State at edge. You pivot to edge. And then, well, people are like, well, what about offensive line? Well, you can still potentially get a quality tackle at the top of the second round. Or if the 49ers were really dead set and focused on targeting a specific player, they could always package some picks. They have 11 draft picks currently. Who knows what the comp picks will look like when it's all said and done? And they could package and trade up into the first. Maybe they send a player that they're ready to move off of as well to get into the first to go after and target a specific tackle that has kind of slid down. But I am for sure of the belief that you have to go defensive line. And yes, you have Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd's playing really well. Yita Gross Matos has played well too. And you have Nick Bosa. But Leonard Floyd is only on a deal for one more year. Yita Gross Matos is only on a deal for one more year. And you need interior defensive tackle help like there's no one's business. So whether they combine with they go to free agency to get a defensive tackle or defensive end. I still think it makes sense that if you have the opportunity to go out and get a guy like Mason Graham, you do it. You have to, and you have to weigh that over offensive line. And I am like banging the table for the 49ers need to upgrade their offensive line. Like I'm with you in that regard, but I really do believe I am weighting the defensive line because the defensive line is very important to the overall success of that defense, especially in the wide nine scheme. And so is offensive line. But of course, there might be opportunities to try to upgrade in free agency, maybe with a veteran center. Maybe you take a look at a veteran guard or tackle as well. But when it comes to like developing blue chip talent that from in-house, you have to look at Mason Graham and think of like, well, look at what Braden Fisk is doing right now with the Rams. Obviously, as Jared Verse on the outside, they home run hit drafting those two players, just home run. But when you look at their defensive line in totality, they're all young players. They're all drafted players, and they're all homegrown. The 49ers need to get back to homegrown talent. They have struggled mightily in the past to be able to hit on these guys. And so that's kind of what we're seeing. Not having success in 2023, 2022 drafts. They're really showing um, you know, that lack of hitting on these depth pieces. So I really do believe that I know it almost feels like there's a little bit of a stigma of, going with young players through the draft and playing them right away, but it's time. Like it's time. It's time. You got to build through the draft. It's time. Especially if, we got a lot of high price, players on this team. If they pay Brock Purdy, you have to hit on the draft. And those guys need to be impact and they need to go and they need to go right now. So that's why I'm thinking that you have to go defensive line for this first round draft pick as it currently stands right now in December. There's a lot of time for us to get into evaluations, see how the values change, and that might change some reasoning. But as it currently stands right now, this is what I believe. And if this changes due to having more information, again, I haven't done my scouting evaluations yet. I'm high level evaluating right now, pulling traits, getting seeing highlights. I haven't gotten the tape on a lot of these guys. So that will come, and then my opinions will evolve as I have more information. So, as it stands right now, I think it is positive that they are in this position, because we know what it is. This is a down year. It doesn't change anything to win. They aren't performing to the level of you know taking some positive momentum into the offseason at this point. Then at whatever then like let's just scrap this year and let's move on and go draft some talent and revamp this roster to be a winner again. But you guys let me know what you think about that in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.